All right. Well, welcome back to APN's Tackling Stigma. Got a new host here with me today. On my right side, we've got, drum roll ready, our global ambassador, Marcus Smith.
What's up? What's up? What's up, man? Good to see everybody.
It's good to see you too.
Great place to be. Grounded. Feeling good.
Nice.
Yes,
You
sir.
know what? I got to say thank you for joining me.
Oh, no problem.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Appreciate it. It's a place where, I wouldn't rather be. I feel like, this conversation is very important, and to do it with my brother and a person that's been a huge point in my life, I think it's essential. Imperative.
Imperative.
Yeah.
Yes. So do you think we should introduce him?
Oh, man, you got to.
Yeah.
The myth, the legend. Come
Okay.
on. I'm gonna let you introduce, because
Okay. Did you say the legend?
he's a legend. Yeah.
He is a legend.
Yeah.
He is a legend of his own. And to the left of myself, I've got Soul Cole here with me today.
Peace and love.
Oh,
Y'all hear that voice, right?
right? Did you hear that?
Hey, I'm just letting you know.
Oh my gosh, I have missed that voice.
I've missed your presence.
So how have you been?
I've been living, I've been being, I've been growing, evolving, healing. I've been journeying through this life, and I am grateful that it has brought me back here full circle, almost 3 years later.
Has it been 3 years?
It'll be 3 years mid-August.
Wow.
It don't
Right.
seem that long, but it definitely has been that long, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, time just goes by so fast.
Oh
huh?
my goodness.
Yeah.
You had the pandemic,
Mhm.
then it's like after the pandemic, it was like,
A blink of an eye.
yeah. Yeah, man.
Yeah. You know, and as we talk about, right, as I introduced the show,
Yeah.
breaking the stigma, right?
Tackling.
Tackling, thank
Yeah,
you.
of
Tackling stigma of mental health, right? For both of you guys, I want to pose the question when we look at this, tackling the stigma of mental health. It's been 3 years, right, when you were first here. What has changed when you look at that stigma of mental health, the journey that you talked about, the freedom that you have in just being? How has that changed for you in the arena of mental health?
It changed from an inside out perspective, right? It had to start with the internal work that started, here during my time at APN, and here is where I got a lot of the ground work, the tools that I could, put into my toolbox to help me after I transition out, right? Obviously, we had our sessions that we would continue virtually, but then once I was on my own, it was up to me to really continue to put in the work. I had to remind myself that I am worth it, and to stay in the fight, because it's a daily grind, to continue to choose and show up when life can be so overwhelming and discouraging, and you can fall back into that pitfall of depression and anxiety, and just allow your mind to go on that cycle and spin out of control. But the transition of being aware of my own mental health journey these last few years, I'm extremely proud of myself, because I've been able to use this as a catapult, if you will, to propel me further along in tackling this stigma of mental health in sports in general, and using my voice, using my platform, using just my authenticity to express to others, alongside my good brother Marcus Smith, the second, to do our thing.
Yeah.
How about you?
Yeah, man. Like so spoke on, just the journey itself has propelled me into being an advocate, being a life coach, and finding my lane with being a voice and trying to help others have that same feeling that I felt coming here, right? And I didn't necessarily know what to expect when I first got here, just because obviously you try to go into a place with no expectations. I've heard different things from different guys, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But when I got here, I was with, I want to say, like 9 other guys, and it was very imperative that I shared and I opened up, because I was in I was in a room with, basically guys I could be with in a locker room. It felt like a locker room. But then also, one of the good things that I really understood too was being with some of the doctors, some of the lawyers, some of the people who, in these high jobs, high places, are dealing with some of the same things. And I think that allowed me to get perspective.
Yeah.
Like, dang, like, okay, I'm human, right? We are no different, but it allowed me to open up in a way that helped free myself. And so that's kind of where it leads me to today, right? Like, when I was here, I wrote some game plans down on what I wanted to do when I got done. I had already had the circle of him, but it wasn't really like birth. It was just something that I was like, oh man, like, I think mental health is important. This is something that I want to do. But when I got here, I really realized, oh, this is my purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's kind of where I am now. That feeling that you get when, and me and Soul did a presentation together, and he brought up the term liberating, right? Because we was doing we was just talking about the actual program itself, and that's how I feel, and I want others to feel that too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
I'm curious, because you both had kind of talked about the liberating, the catapulting, and what coming here has done going forward. If we were to slow that down just a little bit, you had mentioned depression and anxiety. You had touched upon that, And for those who might still be out there who is watching, they might be sitting on the couch and, feeling depression, or maybe not knowing what depression is, or not having a voice, or being able to have a voice, because while we're playing, right, while you were in the league, it's not something you really talk about, is it?
Not at all. Not for me.
Uh-huh.
And however, I am encouraged to see that has now shifted.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I'm not currently in the locker room, but I am still connected with those who are in the locker room, and I see the conversations even on media platforms where the conversation is happening.
Yeah.
And it's not as taboo as it was 20 years ago, 10 years ago, right? And that is encouraging to me, because that means we're moving in the right direction and tackling this stigma head on, right? Because I was an offensive guy. Marcus was an offensive guy until he went to the dark side, right? And but that's neither here nor there. But and you can correct me if I'm wrong, bro. There is a such thing as form tackling, right?
Yep.
The technique tackling and how to go about doing that. And I think that carries over into this conversation, is that we're approaching this with form and technique in a way that is safe, right? So we don't injure ourselves physically. And I think that's important.
A
Would
bar.
you agree?
I agree.
You like that one, bro?
Yeah,
that's
boy,
like a-
come on. You dropped the mic.
Yeah.
Come on now.
Yeah.
I totally agree. I think when you think about what we kind of go through as athletes and how, we don't talk about it in the locker room and stuff. When you do see the conversations are definitely being had, right? And long as they're being had, as long as we're in the space, because at first when we first got into space, they weren't being had. It was kind of like scratching the surface a little bit. But as the years progress, obviously, we talk about the NCAA, you talk about the NFL, you're seeing stuff happen more and more that is affecting people's mental health. So especially athletes, when you see other guys, stuff happening to other guys, and when you see the statistics. So it's almost right there in front of our face, and people are like, you know what? We got to talk about this. I know the Pivot, shout out to the Pivot podcast. We talked about they'll speak on it, more times than not, ask people about their mental well-being. Where are you right now as far as being mentally fit, right? And I feel like that's exactly where we need to be. And the awareness piece is always the first part, right? Then after awareness comes solution. So once people start talking about it more, right? Once we get in a phase of like, all right, the stigma is still kind of there a little bit, but it's starting to release a little bit. Now, what are we going to do after that to help what we're going through? What is the solution? And I think we're moving towards that, and that's the where we need to be.
Yeah, yeah. And as you talk about that, we have to acknowledge, right? We have to be able to have the conversation. What was it like not to have the conversation? Because both of you right now, right, you are using your platform. You are putting a voice. You are advocating. You're out there asking others, talk about this. What was it like even just a few years ago? And again, I want you to think about it, and you're free to speak about whatever you feel, but what was it like to have to be silent and not be able to talk about it, not be able to have these types of conversations, or even to just say, I'm struggling? What was that like?
It's like a war. It's like a war within your mind, body, and spirit. We all know that that's connected, and those were disconnected. We're trying to pick the pieces back up. We're trying to figure out, how I get through this part, right? Because me being a quarterback at first, me being a quarterback, I had a different demeanor. As you can see who I am, I'm really a quarterback at heart. Quarterbacks are like very, calm, they're not linebackers. I'm going to say that. Right? As a linebacker, you got to be, you got to hit. You just got to be grimy. You got to be dirty. That's just not in my nature. Right? So a lot of times, our coaches would be, stop being a bitch, stop being a pussy. You know what I'm saying? Stop being all these things. And that just resonate with you. If you feel like you're being like that or being emotional, you're not going to bring it up. And so that carries over into your everyday life. And you don't realize, man, the impact that it had on you, that you felt like you couldn't speak. And it was a war between you and yourself. And it gets to a point where the battle is winning. The war within yourself, whoever, the bad part of you is winning. And you want to get rid of the bad part, but the only way you feel like the bad part will be gone is by you taking yourself out of the equation. You know what I mean? So I think not having that safe space to speak, having that war is like the hardest place to be, because you don't really see the light at the end of the tunnel. You don't see it. And sometimes it takes us to the deepest and darkest depths that we don't want to go. But sometimes you need that to come out on the other side. So,
Yeah.
You talked about the war, bro. That resonated with me, and to go back to your original question, Miss Tammy, the sensation that came up for me was heavy before, I was able to talk about it. And then I had to go back to our handy dandy tool, right? The color wheel, something that, the feelings wheel, something that I still use to this day. I still
do y'all
use.
know, you know what that's from?
Huh?
I
You
think
know
she
what
was
that's
just
from?
excited about this.
Okay.
I don't think she knows about.
Oh, okay, all right. No, that's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
Is that for another show?
Yeah, it's for
Yeah.
another. Yeah, it could be an off-camera thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I wanted to utilize this tool to expand upon other feelings. And what came up for me as I was listening to you talk, bro, is, where was it? I was overwhelmed at times. I felt isolated a lot, not being able to be in that state of like silence. I felt insecure. Wow. I definitely felt insecure at times, and worthless, to be honest. And that all made it feel heavy, right? And to get back to what you were saying about the war within, and relating that to, we struggle to see the light within. It was a lot of dark times, and but in those darkest moments is when there is always what you call it, a glimmer of light that's inside of you. And there's hope when you see that sparkle, right? And it could be so far in the distance in the tunnel that you're not even sure if it's a light. You might think that, nah, it can't be. It
Bar.
can't be a light.
Bar.
And you continue to take one step at a time, one breath at a time, and you get closer inch by inch. It's a game of inches anyways, to getting back to that light within you. And that now it's like a magnet, and it's pulling you like gravity back towards it. And that's what this journey has been like now.
Yeah.
As I've been doing the work internally, and the light is now getting bigger. It's shining brighter. Like, it's radiant to the point where it's now exuding outside of me, that people can notice the light in a dark room. Right? And
So are you saying that when you walk into a room, everyone lights up? Yes.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
Yeah.
an energy. It's an energy. It's an aura, right? People talk about aura all the time, and it's contagious. We know energy is contagious, and so for me, I invest a lot into, grounding myself and raising my personal vibration, so that when I go into other spaces, to whether it's just to observe, maybe I'm not supposed to be the guy, the center of attention for that day. However, if I'm in that room, people are going to feel that something shifted, the atmosphere is going to shift. And that's something that I walk with confidence in, right? And I will continue to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know, you had said, Marcus, stop it, right? You had made a reference that your coaches would say, stop it. And of course, she said a couple other words in there, but stop it, right? And, you know, when you guys were playing, right, there's this conditioning, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Now, I've never played ball,
Mm-hmm.
but, you know, we've talked about this, that it wasn't just while you were in the NFL, right? There's the collegiate part, there's high school, and this piece of stop it, stop feeling, stop, right? And then what you were talking about, that spirit within us, right?
Mm-hmm.
It dims down. And when we continue in that place of stop it, you know, don't talk about it, don't let it out. I have to be a strong man, you know. We talk about war, and both of you guys have referenced, you know, in our time together, you know, being a warrior. And, you know, that's a strong man. But what you were talking about is this man of strength today, right? And allowing your light to be seen, allowing your light to shine, and just allowing that. I look at it as frequency, right? There's a frequency that runs through
Everything is measured in frequency.
Yeah.
So the way I see it, just listening to you break that down, is what Marcus and I both had to experience is a reprogramming. We had to be willing to unlearn that conditioning.
Bingo.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And addressing that, becoming aware of it, acknowledging it, and then going back to what Marcus said in the beginning, how do we now apply a solution? How do we now integrate that into our lives now? And for me, I can speak to finding balance within. We were operating out of our divine masculine for so many years.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a part of the conditioning of coming up in a brutal sport. And that would play a part into this coaching sound bites that they would give to us, you know, from as early as we started playing.
What do you mean by coaching sound bites?
You know, what Marcus alluded to earlier, right? Stop it and toughen up, right? That was my politically correct attempt to piece that together.
Very aggressive, right? Language that was used was very aggressive.
Body language and all of that. But it took for me to recognize during my healing journey, after I had the neck surgery and the hip surgery, and then that I was the most vulnerable I had ever been, where I wasn't able to physically be aggressive anymore.
Yeah.
That I had to sit with myself, and then I had to recognize, okay, we have to start to tap into your feminine side and find that balance and that healing, because we all have masculine and feminine energy, right? And there's such thing as harmony that comes back to that frequency that you touched on, that's in all of us, but we get out of alignment, one side or the other, and now it's lopsided, right? But most of society is really operating on that one side of the seesaw, and that's masculine and it's unbalanced, and that causes a lot of stress, that causes a lot of arguments, that causes a lot of all the things that you see trickling down from that tree of imbalance. And doing the work internally, allowing yourself to sit with it, work through it, instead of suppressing it, is a part of the healing that is necessary.
Yeah, yeah. You have children, right? How do you carry this message? I mean, both of you have talked about, you know, we're carrying this message, you know, to whether it's athletes that are still playing or they're out. But what's the message that you carry with your children?
Well, I know one thing. I was an observer, sorry, growing up as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I always paid attention to people that came before me. I didn't say much. My dad used to give me a lot of tidbits about just who I was. He used to say, you could be just as good, or you are just as good, right? You know, don't ever feel like you aren't enough,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so I take that with my kids, right? And I like to lead by example. I have the conversations, right? And so leading by example also, they have to see like what it really means.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like first and foremost, for my son, I'm gonna go to my son first.
Okay.
For my son to understand what unconditional love is, kind of has to know his mom. And he has to see me love on his mom, right? And then once he actually physically can see it, right, I can have a conversation with him, because how can we have a conversation if I'm not actively showing him what it looks like, right? And the same thing with my daughter in retrospect. Daughter, she sees that I love on her mom, right? And she understands that's what it looks like. So now when she gets older and she has a conversation, because my kids are 3 and 5, so I haven't had too many conversations with them. But, you know, kids are curious.
Oh, absolutely.
Sponges.
Right?
They're sponges.
Sponges. So it is certain situations that come up that you be like, you know, what are you asking
What
that
was
for?
that?
Yeah. But, you know, sometimes my daughter just come up to me and say, I just want a hug.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And that's from love and affection, right? She sees that sometimes I go to Allison and I say, man, I don't want nothing. I need a hug, right? She sees that. She sees the love from that. And that's just really just teaching her to be open, to be honest about how you feel. And so one of the things that we ask the kids, because, you know, a lot of times you can ask, like, what's wrong? Like, what's going on? Right?
Mm-hmm.
I seen something, and it's crazy, I seen something on social media, but it rung true to me, and I started doing it myself. Instead of asking, like, how are you doing? Right? Or if my daughter comes up to me and she says, what do you think about this, Dad? Or she has an outfit or whatever, I always put the question back on her. I say, well, how do you like it? How do you feel about it? Right? Because how can you start to articulate your feelings if you're worried about how I feel about what you're doing or what you're asking? Mm-hmm. So that's what I do with them, you know, at an early age. And I think hopefully, you know, I'm not going to say I'm the best parent, because we all have faults, and I'm trying to be the best parent that I could be. But I'm still learning, and it's a learning process for me to undo some of the stuff that we've learned as kids, right? Being open with them and actually saying, you know what, I was wrong. I was wrong. Ezra, I was wrong. Not just go to your room or whatever. You could just be mad or anything, but like just being open with them and leading by example is really the most important thing that I try to stick by. So yeah.
Nice.
I know that was a lot.
Now I'm gonna give you your flowers, bro. I want you to get that off, but you are an amazing father, bro.
Appreciate
so
that,
giving
bro.
you your flowers. We passed Father's Day, but it doesn't need to be that for you to be acknowledged. We need to
Appreciate that, bro.
You know, I see how much you care and the attention you showing up, being present. You know, so I always tip my hat to you.
Appreciate that, bro.
Oh, we just got to see it on his face as he was describing,
Every time.
right?
Every time. And I
Yeah.
hang out with him often, and it's not a conversation that, that we have that doesn't come up with either his kids or his wife.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And what you were talking about, right, is in some sense, when we look at tackling stigma, right, and we're wanting to affect some type of change. And so, from a proactive lens, right, we can start with our children. We can start by having the most simplest conversation and allowing them to have language,
Yeah.
which then allows us to integrate. And it's not even with our children, but it's with two men right here and the changes that you two have been able to affect and put into place by acknowledging that we need to change, by acknowledging we need to change not only how the two of us or even the three of us
Come on.
are sitting here talking today,
Yeah.
but how do we change going forward, the stigma in our cultural, in our society, in just the world that we live in.
I think it has a lot to do with what we intake. Right?
What do you mean?
So music, for example,
Mm-hmm.
we talk about culture. Culture is big. Music brings people together, right? Music makes you feel a certain way emotionally. So you can not hear a song for over a decade, and then you hear it for the first time, and you remember where you were when you first heard that song. You remember who you were with. You might remember what you were wearing. It brings that memory and all of that back to the surface because of sound and vibration and frequency.
Mm-hmm.
And coming back to how we start to shift this is the music that we decide to listen to on a daily basis. If we wake up in the rising and we decide to listen to, gangster music before 9 a.m. That's just the type of energy we get into, like, and don't get me wrong, like it's nothing wrong with it, but every day, like I understand there's a time and a place. Like if you're about to go to the gym and that's what you need to do to get you hyped to go work out, that's different. But if you just making you some coffee and getting ready for your work day and you just getting ready like that, you know what I'm saying? Just gotta check in.
Run through a wall, boy.
Just check in, right?
Yeah.
Just check in. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Right.
You guys are taking me on a trip right now.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like, all right, just assess that. Music is one way. Fashion is always something else that influences the culture, right?
Talk about it.
Right, the clothes, the shoes, all these brands. What's the underlining messaging that they're putting out, right? And what they're actually representing, and how that impacts, how we show up. All of that is connected.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so those are some practical ways that I think that we can, as a society, can start to apply and integrate in shifting our mindset and tackling this stigma.
Yeah. Come on now. Bars. Y'all already know. When it comes to the culture too, like, I mean, shifting the culture, tackling the stigma, like how we what this is about. It's not an easy thing to do.
Yeah.
Especially if a culture has been a certain way for so long, right? But it takes voices.
Yeah.
It takes soul. It takes me. It takes you. It takes us talking about it more times than not to actually make a shift. Because when we first started, it was still like, I don't know, I ain't ready for this.
I
Right?
wasn't ready for it.
Right. You know what I mean? And that's it reigns true, because sometimes you are not ready for flying cars. Right? You're not ready for electric. You're not ready to not have to pump gas at the gas station, and you gotta put your car on a battery, electric battery, right?
Mm-hmm.
To charge your car.
Yeah.
So it's about being open to the change and understanding that the culture of where we are right now is here to stay. And it's for our betterment. It's for our good, as the Lord would say,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because we got to be in a better place, and we have to be open in order to really dive deep into who we are as a people. No matter if you're black, white, Asian, Hispanic, it don't matter, right? All of our cultures have had some learning along the way.
Yeah.
And so we can be the leaders in this phase, in this part, to bring change that is going to transcend for years to come.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of where I'm at. It's like I understand what comes along with it, and I know it's going to be it's going to be some push and pull. It's going to be hard. It's going to be some crying moments, right? It's going to be, man, like heavy moments.
I cried this morning.
Man.
This
You
morning
did tell me that.
I did tell you that. And it's a part of it.
The
right?
fact that you said that, bro.
It's a part of it.
You gotta expound on that, bro.
It's natural, right? And I think the reason why I chose to say it in this moment is because, right, we're leading by example, and we need to normalize how we're going to just talk about it, but not exemplify it.
Yeah.
Right. So the way, as smooth as I just said it, is as normal as I tell you off camera as I would say you on camera. Like this isn't a switch up, right? And so for me to allow myself the space to cry and not, it was a time years ago I used to be like, nah, bro, and I'm by myself, and it's just me.
Yeah.
Nobody else can see, hear me. Nobody else would even know. But I would be like, don't even think about it.
Yeah.
Cut it out.
Holding back.
You know what I'm saying?
Holding back.
And now I'm at a point where, I'm like, you know what?
Back no more.
It's okay, bro. Let it happen.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You're supposed to release this energy because it's been backed up, and it's not healthy for you to continue to keep that internalized, right? For me especially, I'm someone as an empath. I need to feel the feels and let it flow.
Yeah.
That's why I'm a flow facilitator. I gotta let the energy flow through me.
Yeah.
Right. And water is the biggest lesson of flow. Bruce Lee, be like water. You know what I'm saying? What did he mean? Go with the flow. You know what I always say? Flow before you go, flow as you go, and before you know, you're going with the flow. I don't think you heard that one, Mr.
I don't think I've heard that one before.
Oh, you got millions of bars.
Yeah.
You need to put them on. Put them on there.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I got bars.
But
But no pull-ups.
That's a culture right there.
Yeah.
Just you talking about that.
Right.
That's a culture shift.
I know it. And I was like, I felt the opportunity. I felt the spirit moving. I was like, all right, let's run it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Here we go with it.
Right? We
Yeah,
pivot, right?
That's it.
But I think what we just also talked about, right? And when we look at breaking the stigma, right? There is like this invisible wall.
Yeah.
And until we're ready, right? You had mentioned not being ready from a cultural, but from an individual, right? Each one of us have to be ready. And sometimes we don't realize that we're ready. Sometimes we're in a place of denial. Sometimes, right? And that's whether it's being silent or whatnot. But the minute we're ready, right? This is when we begin to affect change.
Man,
within us.
I couldn't agree with you more.
I agree as well.
Ready to answer the call. Ready to answer the call. Right? You gotta create that space of stillness and silence to hear the call.
Bingo.
Right?
And that's hard, and that's a hard place to be.
You wanna know what? Silence. I really valued and understood the power of silence when I was here 3 years ago. I went off, we went on a hike. I don't remember where, but they took us up almost 13,000 feet. And we got to the point on the hike And I just had to stop because I couldn't hear anything. I couldn't hear wind, a bird. I didn't hear a plane. I didn't hear anything, bro. And the reason why I had to stop because the only thing I heard was my feet in the ground. And then when I stopped, the volume of silence turned up dramatically. And I was like, oh, that's different. That's when I really knew how loud silence was and how powerful it can be.
Oh, I know that feeling. I know
it's a
that
beautiful feeling.
Yeah.
And I really encourage people to really embrace that because that's uncomfortable. Silence makes a lot of people uncomfortable. And one of the things that I did just recently was a 5-day silent retreat. And that was beautiful.
Oh, hell no. I don't know if I don't know if I could do 5 days.
I mean, with your profession, you do a lot of talking naturally. But I'm telling you, as someone who also does a lot of talking, speaking engagements, and facilitation, it was so healing to give my voice a rest.
Yeah.
And when you talk about how you missed this voice, this is what I say. I gave my voice time to marinate in spiritual seasoning for 5 days. You know when you marinate, you know something, and it's you got the seasonings all into it, and then when you finally, maybe after 3 days, you take it out, put it on the skillet or the grill.
It's so tender.
The tenderness.
Oh God, yes.
And so that's when I felt when I came out of this retreat, and I chanted and I owned for the first time the vibration. It was like, ooh, I unlocked a new level, right? And it was just that it charged me up so much, and so now it's a part of my, that's something that I'm gonna continue to do for sure.
Yeah. And that's an incredible tool is when we're able to silence our minds, right? We were talking about this earlier as far as self-care. How do we detach? We're so connected with technology, our watches, our ears, our phones, our iPads, our computers. You get into your car, your phone attaches. We're so connected in some sense, but to learn how to be silent, right? To be silent with ourself and allow that energy. You and I talked earlier about God, right? Letting God in and allowing that energy to move through us.
That's what I always ask before I speak or before I do any engagement or anything. I ask God to use me first, but allow His light to shine through me. Use me in a way, use words that I would have never thought of, that I would have never even pictured writing about, because I want to give the glory to Him first and foremost. And I always tell people that wasn't me. You seen me, but it was God operating through me to give you what you needed in that moment. Yeah.
It's kind of what I call as a set-aside prayer, right?
Yeah.
One of the things that, that we teach here, and again, it's not about God, but spirituality, right? The spirit, and looking at spirituality as the vitality of life that runs through us, right? And sometimes we have to ask for help. We're looking at with mental health, whether it be depression or anxiety, but sometimes we just have to ask, God, help me to set aside this anxiety that I'm feeling right now so that I can breathe. So that I can be present.
That's what I was going to connect the dots to.
So I can be here in the moment, right? So that I can speak your word. So I can be seen, right? And it's just that part, that there is truly, and again, this is a little bit of a personal piece, but when we are silent, it allows us to connect. But that's how we begin to break, right? That's how we begin to, whether we're athletes, whether we're, like you said, CEOs, Lord, whatever it may be, right? That we learn to be silent with ourselves and listen. You know, you'd mentioned something about flow state and breath work.
Yeah.
You know, again, with the viewers out here, they
Mhm.
might be wondering, what the heck is that?
Yeah.
I'm curious if you would be willing to kind of take us through a little bit of exercise. You had mentioned grounding, right?
Mhm.
And just being
Of course.
not so much silent and quiet, but just silent with what we have right here with the three of us.
I would love to.
You really?
I would love to.
Oh my
It is an
gosh,
honor.
I'd be so honored.
It's an honor for me, truly. So,
Okay.
for all those viewers who are watching, if you aren't driving a car, allow yourself to be still and be present. Settle into this moment. If you feel safe, I invite you to close your eyes. If not, find a point where you can just focus your gaze. Relax your shoulders down from your ears. Allow your spine to gain some length as you sit up nice and tall from the base to the crown. And just simply drop in to your body. Allow yourself to surrender. Give yourself permission to relax. Become aware of your body breathing itself. You are alive, full of vitality, life force energy that flows through every cell, every atom in your vessel. That breath that God breathed life into you. You were born with breath in your lungs. When you came into this world, you took your first breath, and when you transition out, you will take your last. And every breath in between is the most important breath you'll ever take. And each inhale through your nose, as you feel your rib cage rise, and every exhale out gently through your nose as your lips are slightly closed, as your belly falls. It brings you back to the present moment. And because it's 3 of us here on this show, I would like to guide you through an exercise known as 3-part breathing. I'll guide you through this practice if this is your first time. We will begin with taking 1 inhale into our belly, filling up all the air in our diaphragm, feeling our lungs expand. And then we will take a 2nd breath into our chest cavity, expanding our chest, feeling it rise. And then on the 3rd count, you will open mouth, exhale, releasing all that energy back out into the space. It's 3-part breathing. So I'll count. Inhale 1, inhale 2, exhale 3. That will be the cadence. We'll do a few rounds and then we'll check in. And we begin. Inhale 1, inhale 2, exhale 3. Inhale 1, inhale 2, exhale 3. Make that exhale audible. Inhale 1, inhale 2, exhale 3. 2 more. Inhale 1, inhale 2, exhale 3. Last one, make it count. Inhale 1, inhale 2, exhale 3. Wherever you are, allow your breath to return to its normal rhythm. No need to control it, no need to change it. Just simply check in with yourself, notice how you feel. Start to bring movement back to your fingers and your wrists and Rotate your ankles and feet as we come back into this safe, sacred space. Thank you for allowing me to guide you through this practice, offering sweet, soothing vibrations to stimulate your sensations, brought to you by Soul Cold Meditations. Until we practice again, may peace and love always be with you.
Come on now.
That was beautiful.
Thank you kindly.
I want to thank you for that. When we're struggling with mental health and we're struggling with depression or anxiety, that exercise that we just went through, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not only about breath, but it's also we're working with our nervous system.
Mm-hmm.
We're working with our lymphatic system. We are working in calming our systems down. When we live in a world that moves so fast, we've got so much information that's coming in with what we visually see, with what we hear, with what we touch, with what we smell, right? As a psychosomatic worker, we are working with our senses. And if we can learn to slow things down, and what we just did there, right? Those few minutes, those few moments allows our brains, allows our anxiety, but more importantly, it allows our nervous system to slow down. And as we drop into that digestive system, right, we pull down and we slow it down.
Restorative,
right?
That's something that I've recognized as I've been on this journey, that my gift of being able to assist people in tapping into their rest and digestive, their parasympathetic nervous system, to activate that, because we're, like I mentioned earlier, we're always operating in our sympathetic nervous system, that fight, flight, or freeze. And it puts our nervous system in a panic state sometimes, right? But being able to allow your breath to help guide you into soothing your nervous system, calming your nervous system. One thing I had to learn about as I was studying more about the nervous systems, we have one of the largest nerves in our body is the vagus nerve. And the way that nerve is stimulated, bro, I don't know if we ever talked about this. The way that nerve gets stimulated is through humming. And it sends a vibration to that nerve when you hum. And that's why a lot of old heads just be humming. My grandfather used to hum all the time. But I don't know if he knew the science behind it. But he knew intuitively that would calm him down. And now I find myself humming like it's nobody's business. And I'm not even a father, so I can't even be a grandfather. You know what I'm saying? But I've always had this old soul attached, internally. And so now being able to tap into that in a way that I recognize that as a superpower, that I can assist people in being able to calm down with just my energy, with just my light, with just my presence and my voice accompanied with that. So I'm grateful that you allowed me the space to offer that.
Absolutely. Well, I'm honored.
Likewise.
That you, that you came back and spent some time with us today. And it's just, you are an incredible and a beautiful person, so thank you.
Thank you.
Give your flowers while you're here, bro. You are, bro. You are him, bro. I appreciate you too, bro.
Thank you, brother.
I always do, man. I get to see it all the time, and I never take it for granted. You know what I mean? So he's been there plenty of times. We've been literally been sitting next to him, and I'm having an anxiety attack. Like, bro, takes me through breathworks, breathing techniques that help calm the nervous system. So, and
thank you for joining me and being my co-host.
Co-host?
Give me a hand.
Don't leave her hanging, bro.
My bad, I'm sorry.
I like this dynamic duo right here. I like this.
I tell you, it's wonderful. And we get to share. We get to share our experience, strength, and hope. And again, for those, just like you would share any one of us, whether we're an athlete, whether we're a professional, whether we're male, we're female, we're black, we're white, whatever it may be, right? If you are struggling with depression, anxiety, anything at all, whether it's simple as breath work, whether it's talking about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Please, reach out, and you can, online, you can go to www.apn.com, give a number a call. Your show, Circle of M, if you want to touch upon that real quick, because I think that's a big, it's a platform that you get to share.
Yeah. The Circle of M is a show that unmasks the feelings that cause anxiety and depression. We are kind of in season 6 right now, and this opportunity for my brothers to be able to share and to, give their advice and lived experience with mental health. And I think that's just another way to continue to help souls and save people who may not understand, or may look at us, who look up to us, look at it like, wow, like maybe I should, or maybe it's time for me to do, right? To start acting on some of the things that I'm going through. And so that's what the Circle of M is all about. So I appreciate, you can go to circleofm.com and see all of our stuff. But we are now on the APN network.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm super
Congratulations,
excited.
bro.
Man, I appreciate that.
That's huge, man.
Man, appreciate that. Like, y'all don't know, man. Thank you.
Yeah.
You are so welcome. So welcome, So, again, if you have any questions, please reach out to www.apn.com. And again, Soul, thank you for joining us. It's incredible to see you.
It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely.
I told Marcus I'll come do it, but I'm not coming unless you are here.
Yeah.
So this made my day.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, guys.